Hello, hello, hello. This is Gretch from the I Am CEO podcast. I have a very special guest back on the show today. I have Dr. Amanda Barrientez. Dr. Amanda, great to have you on the show.
Gresh, I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Yes, absolutely. You're doing so many phenomenal things. So excited to get caught up with all the awesome things that you've been working on. But of course, before we do that, I want to read a little bit more about Dr. Amanda so you can hear about some of those awesome things. And Dr. Amanda, known as the mindset healer and the manifestation expert for entrepreneurs, is the founder of Inner Pro Daily, an international best-selling author, professional speaker, and the host of a top 2% globally rated podcast called Inner Power Entrepreneur. After going from food stamps to building a six-figure business fast, it's become her superpower to teach entrepreneurs law of attraction strategies to reprogram their energy, mindset, and habits so that they can experience rapid business growth. And as I mentioned, Dr. Amanda was on episode number 340 of our RMCEO podcast. Loads and loads of great energy, loads and loads of great information. So I'm so passionate about all the things that she does because she talks about transformation and teaching people. And I think that's, of course, so important. But one of the things that I absolutely loved about her is her transparency, her authenticity, and how powerful it is by hearing her story. It kind of gives us permission to kind of chase our dreams and do those awesome things. So Dr. Amanda, excited to have you back. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Let's do it.
Let's get it started then. So to kind of get everything started, let's rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on what you've been working on, how you got started with all the awesome work you're doing.
Yeah, rewinding the clock. If people go back and listen, I'm sure they've heard this story, but it's so good that we need to share it again.
Yes, please do.
Right. I think I love to share these stories because it's really powerful to know that you can get wherever you want to go based on using the principles that I learned and that I teach. And I really think about law of attraction as rules of the game of life. And when you know them and you know how to access them, you can win. And it was so liberating for me to learn about universal laws and be able to implement them strategically to then go from this feeling of complete powerlessness to being powerful. And, that's why the company name is Inner Power Daily, because we want to have inner power, right? When we have power, we feel like we have a magic wand to control our outer world. And so for me, it all started when I was on the floor crying one night. I had left my 15-year marriage having an affair, and then my next relationship wasn't working. So I was staring out at this empty basement where my boyfriend had moved all of his stuff out of the basement. And I'd spent the day on Craigslist looking for houses to live in that I couldn't afford anything. I had 3 kids in grad school and I was already on food stamps. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know where I'm going to live. And I was really scared. And I remember just laying there thinking, like kind of scanning my reality and going, who can help me? Who's going to save me? And no one. I came up with no one. And I thought, man, what is the problem here? And I'm so scared and I'm so stuck. And it was a really great moment because at the same time, I'm thinking like, no one's going to come save me. I realized I'm the one who created this because I was scanning my history and I noticed, well, I was in the middle of this. I was in the middle of this. I was in the middle of that. I'm the common denominator. And so, I made this declaration to myself. I wouldn't have called it that at the time, but I made this declaration in my mind, like, I am willing to do whatever it takes to stop having bad relationships and make more money. And so it led me to podcasts because I was already really busy in grad school. And so I could listen on the go, in between classes and taking my kids to school and all of those things. And I started to change. And it was really amazing to me to hear what the coach type entrepreneurs were saying on these podcasts. And I would implement it and I felt different. And while this was going on in my graduate school department, we had this national news fallout where professors were leaving the department because there was so much stress. And I thought, oh man, I don't want to be a professor anymore. And so I thought, well, all of these entrepreneurs have coaching businesses and they're really inspiring and I love to teach. So why don't I just take the leap when I graduate and become an entrepreneur? And so I went from food stamps to 6 figures in that first year of business. And since then, it's just been this amazing upward spiral growth journey of learning the ropes of entrepreneurship and, how to master your mindset and really be able to manifest what you desire as an entrepreneur.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you so much again and sharing that because it's so powerful because I think sometimes we can not know what reality is until we hear what reality is or what's even possible might be a better way to say that. So I appreciate you so much because I think no matter like kind of where you are at, along the journey, whether good, bad, or anything in between or around, you have the opportunity to kind of make those changes. And I think sometimes we have that powerlessness as you kind of talked about and sometimes don't I don't know if it's awareness or maybe you're just ignoring it or some combination of both that allows us to kind of unlock that opportunity that's within us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's wild because something I think is really amazing to watch is that powerlessness piece can be a really incredible catalyst for growth. So,
Mm,
sometimes people get, I like to think of the golden handcuffs, where it's like, oh, I'm really comfortable in what I do, even though I don't like it and I say I want something else. They can sometimes have a harder time changing because they're not that uncomfortable. And I was really
mm,
uncomfortable. When you feel powerless, you feel uncomfortable. Like life kind of sucks. Everything around you feels like you're not in control and like everything's against you. And, now I know that I was very victim minded and I was really looking to blame other people. And so I love to teach people how to access their inner power to get what they want and know that it's a shift from feeling victim minded to feeling like, okay, I can be a victor of my life and I can change my reality. And so, thinking of this concept that I teach people is that your outer world's a reflection of your inner world. And if you don't like what you're getting on the outside, you got to change what's within because your outer world is just a mirror of how you're thinking and feeling internally. And so anytime you look at your outer world mirror and you go, I don't really like what I'm getting, instead of blaming something outside of you, take radical responsibility and go, how can I change something within me to then get a different outer world experience?
nice. That's so powerful. And I love that phrase, radical responsibility, to be able to do that. Do you find like, I guess there's a lot of the conversations and I imagine all the awesome things you're talking about on your podcast as well, too. Like sometimes you can feel um, maybe you shouldn't kind of ask for things to be changed, especially if you're not in that powerless phase where you want to be appreciative, you want to be
Mhm.
grateful, that you almost feel like, who am I to kind of ask for that when, X, Y, and Z is going well? So why am I asking for A, B, and C? Do you find like that happens or comes up a lot as well?
Yeah, that's so amazing you say that. I had a really interesting conversation with a client once who said, I don't like to use gratitude because it was used against me as a kid. Like this,
Mhm.
like when, their parents would say, like, be grateful for what you have. Kind of like
Right.
stop asking for what you want, be grateful for what you have. And so
Right.
it does come up for people a lot. And I think that we can get to this place where we don't want to ask for what we want, either because of what you're saying, where we're like, well, maybe it's just I'm too much,
Right.
it's selfish or greedy or I already have enough. And so people can get really capped in their income when they feel that way, and they can get capped in the amount of impact they can make. And so it's unplugging from that story and realizing that the bigger your income is and the more you ask for what you want, the faster it will come and the more impact you can make in the world. And so it's really letting go of that scarcity thinking or the thinking that money will make me a bad person somehow. Like having too much makes me bad is a money block belief that is something to let go of.
Yeah, thanks so much for expanding upon that. And I love that you use that word story because I think so many times we, again, feel powerless or feel like this is just, how I was raised or this is what happened in my life that we don't feel like we have any control, let alone even a little control to be able to rewrite that story or to look at things in a different perspective. But it sounds like you're saying that when you start to realize that you have a pencil or pen in your hand, you get to kind of redirect that and get to kind of tell a story in the way that it would best suit you and best suit the impact that you want to have.
Absolutely. It's so fun. I love that you said it that way because it is exactly that. It's like we write a story and then we play it out over and over and over again and prove to ourselves that it's true.
Mm.
And really all you need to do is just go like, hey, do I want to keep buying into this story or can I rewrite something else and play that out for a while and see how it feels? And what you notice is that every time you rewrite a new story, you get a different outcome or result. And you're like, oh, I could have just rewritten the story a long time ago and everything would have been a lot easier.
Yes, absolutely. It's incredibly powerful. So I know that you work with your clients in a lot of different ways. Could you take us through a little bit more on like what that looks like, how you're helping people to rewrite their story, make that impact? And of course, would love to hear more about your podcast and your show.
Yeah, absolutely. So I root everything in my 3-step formula that is very simple. And I love simple formulas because if it's not simple, people won't do it. And if it's not simple, they can't remember it.
Right.
And so my 3-step formula is to number one, recognize. Number two, reframe. And number three, repeat to reprogram. So it's very simple. And the complexity in it is that most people first don't even know how to recognize. They get just like you were saying, they don't even know how to ask for what they want. And they're scared of seeing what they want because there are so many conflicts within. It could be that in the past they asked for something they wanted and they didn't get it. So now they limit what they want. So that's a recognition tool. Recognition would be you waking up every morning going, I don't feel good. And a lot of times I work with entrepreneurs who have spent years working really hard and creating a prison out of their businesses where they go,
Mhm.
okay, if I'm going to scale to the next level, and this could be a professional, an entrepreneur, anyone who's a high performer, they keep noticing how far they have to go instead of noticing how far they've come. And so they feel bad when they wake up in the morning. They feel stressed. They feel tension. They feel like there's a million boxes to check and I'm never going to get to where I want to be. Or if they set this, the goal, like, here's where I want to be, they get there, they don't slow down to recognize the wins and then celebrate themselves. And so then that requires a reframe. So they recognize, I don't feel good. What's the reframe? It's a mindset, it's a habit, it's a different way of thinking, it's rewriting the story. And so reframe tools I use a lot. I have a daily program called Law of Attraction for Entrepreneurs, and it's daily programming. And the reason is because you must repeat to reprogram, right? So number three,
Mhm.
repeat to reprogram. And so we all need daily reminders of up-leveling our vibrational frequency, of reframing our mindset toward what we want instead of focusing on what we don't want. And so reframe tools, it could be meditation, journaling, learning, listening to podcasts, going out on a walk around the block and just releasing some energy and shifting your physical being. That could be a reframe. So there are a lot of great reframe tools to use. And then in that repeat way, it's repeat, 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 because the only things that reprogram your subconscious mind are repetition and hypnosis. And hypnosis can happen through meditation. It could happen through going to a hypnotherapist. Repeat is another way. And anyone can do this. It's just being conscious and recognizing when you need to do the reframe and repeating it regularly. So very simple strategies like plugging into your phone your favorite, something inspirational. I call them affirmantras. I teach people affirmantras. And so, plugging that into your phone or having an alarm that goes off that says, do a 2-minute meditation, or, having something on your phone that says, make sure you do your weekly meeting, that could be on your calendar. So anything that's going to start reframing you in the direction of success, or in the direction that you choose to go.
Nice. I too love the simplicity of that just because it allows you to again, yeah, I think when you feel like, you're up against everything, it makes it really harder to probably even take that first step. But I love especially how, starting out by just kind of having awareness around like what's happening is probably one of the first steps, because I think if you feel like you have to do too much, I almost feel like you won't want to take that first step, let alone 30 steps or 40, whatever it would be. So I love the simplicity of that.
Yeah, you're so right. It's that question. If you can just train yourself to ask how you feel every morning, how do I feel right now? Your feeling will guide you to know how to read the future of what you're going to attract. Because what you feel right now is predicting your future, because that's what
Mm.
you're planting seeds for. And so it's why a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck, is because they think, oh, I can be stressed right now, but somehow I'm going to attract a successful, happy ending. That's an impossibility, because you can't have a happy ending to a miserable journey. You can't have a successful ending to a stressful journey. So if you're stressed out every day, then it's impossible to create a successful ending. And so you've got to program yourself right now, today, and go, how do I feel right now? If you feel stressed out, then it's just a simple next reframe question. What can I do right now to just feel a little bit different? How can I do something that makes me feel happy or balanced or peaceful or something? And we're talking little simple things. It's not big, grandiose gestures. It's very small habits that change you from the inside out over time. And so you can get different results. So it'd be things like, I teach a 1-minute meditation, like 1 minute of breathing, 3 deep breaths even will change your energy entirely. And so it's just very simple things. And I think that what I do with people really surprises them, because it's not rocket science. It's actually very simple strategies. It's just being conscious enough to implement them regularly, which comes back to radical responsibility and choice. You have the choice to keep living the life you're living and building the business or the career that you're building, or you have the choice to build a different one entirely and have yourself feel as fulfilled as you choose to feel.
Yeah, that's so huge. And why, again, I love that radical responsibility, because I think even sometimes going into entrepreneurship or going to starting something, or even if you're at 6 figures trying to go to 7 figures, 7 figures, eight, whatever it might be, that next level, whatever that looks like, We often have like perceptions or even stories we have around what that looks like. So I can easily see how if you feel like going from six figures to seven figures, I'm gonna be so busy, or it's just gonna be terrible. I'm not gonna. You automatically are having that feeling that you talked about that ends up manifesting itself in the things that end up happening as you start to scale and grow. Or sometimes you may sabotage, I imagine, as well too, and you're like, hey, I don't actually want that, even though I do. But I imagine that circle starts to happen a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you just outlined it so amazing. It's what I call competing commitments. So it's when you
Mm,
consciously want something but your subconscious is battling against itself. And 95% of you is subconsciously run. So you could say I want to be a seven-figure business owner. Like you could consciously want that. But if your subconscious thinks that somehow you're going to be a greedy jerk when you make that much money, or you're never going to have enough time, you won't have time for your family, or you're going to have to work really hard and it's going to be stressful, then you're not going to get there because you're going to be battling against yourself. Or if you do get there, you'll feel that battle the whole time. It's not going to be easy and flowing and fun. You could be one of those people who makes huge, monetary success, but gets there and feels burnt out. You're not
mm,
connected with your family or your friends. You're not connected with yourself. Your physical health is degrading. And we don't want that, right? We want
right.
holistic wealth where you get there and you go, oh, yeah, I have a pinchable life. My life is awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And holistic health is wealth, and being aware of like what that looks like, and how to execute on that is absolutely huge. So I know you work with your clients, you have your podcast, you work with the clients one on one. Could you take us through a little bit more on the different ways that you're supporting them?
Yeah, actually, so podcast is Inner Power Entrepreneur, and it's so exciting. It's growing so rapidly, Gresh. Like
Nice.
lately, it's been so magnetic, and I'm really just, I love podcasting. So thank you for having me here.
Yeah.
And it's one of my things that I think is just like such a gift to the world. Like it really changes people's lives, and it's a free resource. So I love podcasting. So Inner Power Entrepreneur. I talk about mindset, habits, law of attraction strategies specific to entrepreneurs. They could really be used for anyone, but it's built for entrepreneurs. And in my group coaching programs, I have two main programs. One of them is a daily program. So, like I was saying, it's Law of Attraction for Entrepreneurs, and it's really a daily morning routine program designed specifically for entrepreneurs to help them get aligned up first thing in the morning. So, it's 15 minutes, that's it. And so, you do a lesson, you get a short meditation, a journaling prompt, and an affirm mantra every single day of the week. And then we have a book club, and then we're off on Sundays. And it is a power packed program. So people can check it out. Free trial. It unlocks 90 lessons. So they would just go to lawofattractionforentrepreneurs.com if they wanted to see that. And then for my group coaching program. So I don't do a lot of one-on-one anymore, like very few one-on-one. I do group because obviously I can expand my impact and my reach, also because I love the group dynamics and how people learn from each other. So it's an Inner Power Entrepreneur group coaching program. We meet twice a week, and in it, again, everything I do is designed for that repetition piece. So they do the daily program, and then every week we get together live, and then they have coursework, and it's like, I'd say that it's like this intensive deep dive into radical transformation of yourself. I really think of building businesses as a spiritual journey. And so, it brings up everything inside of yourself that you
Mm,
get to face. And so,
yeah.
I love to be that guide along the way to really help people optimize themselves and then scale to whatever level they choose to scale to. And I've got, great strategies just from my years of experience and then working with a lot of different types of entrepreneurs.
Nice. I love that. And yeah, I would definitely, echo that part about the journey. And as much as we work on building our business, we don't realize that we're also building ourselves, and sometimes revealing ourselves for better or worse as well too. But I love that repetition piece, because I imagine that, we talked a little bit around the unconscious, but like if you've been telling yourself this story over and over again, I imagine, I always feel like in order to make the change, and I'm not a doctor or anything, but I feel like you have to kind of, it's easier or better to flood yourself with the positive rather than the opposite end of the spectrum. And I feel like that repetition, everything you have baked into your podcast, the programs, and all the awesome things that you're doing helps to kind of fuel that, because you're not trying to remove something. You're actually filling up with so much positivity that it becomes harder to think about, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wild. They found that we have 60,000 thoughts a day. So
Wow.
researchers have discovered
Wow.
60,000. What's even crazier, 90% of them are the same as yesterday. So repeating that story. And then they
Mm,
are seeing that 85% are negative. 85%,
Mm.
like blows my mind. But it makes sense why we don't get different outcomes easily is because we're just habitual beings who keep having the
Got
same
it.
thoughts over and over. And just like you said, a lot of them are negative because we're wired for negativity to keep us surviving and to
Right.
protect us. And so it's interesting to think how we actually need to program or reprogram ourselves for success. And so that's what I love to teach people because you realize, like, oh, wow, I'm just stuck because I'm having the same negative thoughts over and over. So I'm going to start shifting my mindset toward focusing on what I want instead of what's scaring me or what I'm protecting myself from. And that vibrational shift is what you focus on. And then that's what you attract to you because your energy shifts in that direction. And so that's why you've got to keep bringing it back a million times. And let's say
Right.
realistically, hundreds of times a day, and so you start practicing that, and then what happens is over time you need to do it less and less because now you've reconditioned and reprogrammed yourself and your subconscious mind for something different. So now, like, for example, for me, when I started doing this kind of work, I mean, it was like hundreds of times a day I'd be like, okay, go back to my affirmation, come on.
Mhm. Yeah.
And now I really am attuned to how I feel because that's your guide. And so I will notice very quickly when I feel off, and then I go, oh, something's out of alignment. Maybe I'm not in my zone of genius. Maybe I'm doing something that doesn't bring me joy. What do I need to delegate? Because if I am not in feeling joy as I build my business, I am causing resistance, which is pushing away money and blocking the growth of the company. And so you want to be attuned to those things and recognize when you feel off and then just shift in a new direction. And so, yeah, everything I create is that. It's like, okay, let's get back to the point of focus of where we want to go.
Yeah, and I love how, I get kind of those feelings of being able to ask yourself that. It's kind of like that North Star to understand where you are because as we kind of been talking about the journey of business, I imagine there's different things that pop up every day. We have new clients, new initiatives, things change, all these things are moving that sometimes we have to continue to kind of check in with ourselves. It's something that you may have loved doing the first couple years in business, you may not love as much, as you move on. So I almost wonder, do you feel like being able to, of course, like have awareness around that and for the clients and your listeners, all those things, do you feel like being able to, of course, be aware of that, but also have the way to understand that and help people execute that from a simplistic standpoint? Do you feel like that's part of what kind of sets you apart and makes you unique or the business as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that I think it's for me when I'm working with people, I just listen to the very simple words that they say, and I'm always looking for incongruencies. It's like or
Mm,
just it's like one simple word that is a big tell for people is the word trying.
okay.
If you hear yourself saying the word trying, you already know you have an internal battle going on because trying
Mm,
means you're struggling and you don't think you have it figured out. And so when people say, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, and sometimes people will say it like 3 or 4 times in a minute. And when you point it out to them, they're like, whoa, you're right, I did. And then they go, huh. Okay. And so it's very simple things, but it's hard to detect on your own at first.
right.
And that's why I think coaches are such a gift to the world is that they're just helping you detect your blind spots. And so it gets easier once you have some really simple tools to start to see from that perspective and go, oh, yeah, let me make a little tweak here. It doesn't have to stay stuck like this, but it is that recognition piece that it takes a little bit of practice because we are so habituated to how we are and just thinking that's the way that it is. So you've actually, I really like to remind people a lot that this is choice. There isn't going to be a magic formula or a pill that drops into your lap and makes your life awesome. You are the magic pill and it's choice. You've got to decide I'm ready for something different and I'm willing to strategically do what it takes. I had a really interesting shift even this week in my journaling. I was like, when I started my business, like I shared the story at the beginning, how my declaration was like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to have more money and improve my relationships. And now I realize that was like, that turned into working really hard. Like willing
Mm.
to do whatever it takes can be a work hard mentality. And lately mine has been so much different. It's like, I am willing to strategically do what it takes, which means I get to work less and make more. And so I've been on track for that for quite a while. And it's been interesting to watch the evolution of myself and see how one of my biggest money blocks was you've got to work hard to make money.
Yeah.
And so I've done that. I've made money and I've worked really hard. And in the last few years, learning more of the law of attraction principles and applying them, I see myself working less and making more and having more fun as I go because I'm realizing that it's energy that creates your reality, not doing. And
Mm.
so the energy around it is you deciding, hey, how am I going to build my business from the smartest place possible? How can I look for easier ways to make money? How can I play in my zone of genius and delegate away the stuff that I don't enjoy so that I can be high vibe and attract opportunities my way instead of working hard for them?
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I think so much comes from, just being able to kind of ask those questions. And then, like you said, a lot of times that answer that we're looking for, we're pointing to trying to look for it. And we have like 4, 5 fingers pointing back towards us because we have the opportunity to kind of, make and create those answers. If we look at things differently, we execute things differently. And definitely if we, I guess, proclaim and ask for things differently as well, too, it's incredibly powerful. I imagine how that starts to create a snowball effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, snowball effect. That's such a great term because it's momentum. What you're
Hmm.
doing by changing like that every day strategically is building momentum in a new direction. And so
Mm.
then that story gets momentum and it turns into a tangible result in your outer world because you build momentum to have your thought turn into a material thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I imagine like I always heard the phrase like Midas touch, and you always say, like, "How are those people so successful? They do everything they touch turns into gold." But I imagine those are the people that have had that snowball effect, where it's just one thing, but they've been doing the work, as you said, consistently, and so that when it starts to snowball, it's not the result of just waking up one day and it happens. They probably have been doing things consistently over a long period of time that has led to that success after success after success.
Absolutely. Yeah, it reminds me, I love the story of bamboos. Do you know how this is so cool.
Mm-mm.
So I always say entrepreneurship is like bamboo growth
Okay.
because bamboos, so you plant a bamboo and
Uh-huh.
5 years, this is blows my mind. 5 years, nothing happens. Nothing.
Wow.
You water it, you nurture it, nothing happens. And then in 6 weeks after the fifth year, it grows 80 feet.
Wow.
And so to me, I'm always like, that's entrepreneurship right there. That's
Right.
personal growth. You're planting seeds, you're nurturing, and this is where people flail, or and I can even say fail because they give up. So
Yeah.
because they go, I'm not seeing the results, it's not happening fast enough. Why isn't anything happening? And then they're negatively comparing themselves to the people around them. And they're usually looking at someone that's 10, 20, 30 years ahead of them. And they're thinking, but
Right.
they have this success.
Yeah.
And they're beating themselves up. And then they give up or they just burn out or they feel frustrated. Instead, it's like, no, know that you are nurturing and you're planting the seeds and you're watering it, and then you will have exponential growth. I see it happen in so many areas of my business. I'm in my fifth year and I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
Yes.
I'm having bamboo growth.
There you go. There you go. You're seeing all the bamboo right around you. That fifth year,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Exactly. That's super exciting. So, I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I want to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. You might have already touched on this, but it could be like an app, a book, or even a habit that you have. But what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Oh man, I don't know why this just popped in immediately, but I'm like, I've been loving AI lately. And I know
Mm,
it's like such a hot button thing right now, of course. And I think some people are kind of freaked out by it. I think it's just one of those tools, just like the internet. You can do bad things with it, you can do amazing things with it, right? AI,
mhm,
we've been using so powerfully. What I described it to my husband the other day as like it feels like my personal assistant who I get to have a conversation with, and it gives me like the framework to then build upon, and so it just makes
mm.
everything I do faster and easier, and it helps me formulate my thoughts in a way that is more organized. And so I've been loving AI. We started using it for our podcast, show notes and social media output, and it has completely rocked our world. We're like, oh my god, this is so much better. And just newsletters and even like email writing or copy
Mhm.
on websites, and thinking, even when I create my episodes for my podcast, I'll type in just to get some ideas to start to see what the output is. And I'm like, this is really cool. It's like having a digital best friend or assistant who helps me out. And I've really been enjoying it. So I'd say that's my hack.
Nice. I love it. Has it just been like ChatGPT, or is it a combination of different softwares that you've seen?
A combination. Yeah. And
Okay.
actually, I just started using Chat GPT. I don't know why. I started using Canva because one of my clients in
Ah,
my
yes.
group showed it to me. Canva has amazing AI, actually. Like, I don't know, a lot
Yeah.
of people I talk to don't know this, but you can, like, in Canva, use the documents and it puts out great stuff. I use Jasper. I don't know if you've heard of Jasper, but I use
Yeah.
Jasper. It's a paid for service, but it's great. And it learns your voice. And so it really pumps out some good stuff. And then we have a specific one for podcasting, where you can upload the audio because a lot of them you can't upload audio. And so we have
Right.
a podcasting one where you can upload audio and then get the transcript, and then it'll, give you different stuff based on that episode.
Yes, I love that. It's just so amazing. Just the we're just kind of scratching the surface on all the awesome things that you're doing, and like all these softwares, like Canva being one of them, are now incorporating more AI into it. So just where we are now is amazing. Can't imagine next year, 2, 10,
I
5 years that
know.
bamboo growth is going to be ridiculous.
Me too. I get really geeked out and excited about it. I'm like, oh, I just learned on it someone else's podcast. I was like, they were talking about how you can, take the audio, turn it into a transcript, put it into Jasper or ChatGPT, and
Uh,
then get a summary of it, and then put that into a audio AI where it can learn my voice and it can say it exact. I was like, oh my
yeah,
God, that's insane.
exactly.
It blew my mind. I was like, wow. I mean, you could create, like, I have a book that I haven't done audio with yet. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I can do that potentially through
Mm.
AI, which saves me, 50 hours of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the beautiful part of all of that, and that's why I loved you said that, it's kind of like an assistant, a really, really, really smart assistant that you get to kind of leverage on, because it allows you to be more in your zone of genius, more time, spending, have those conversations with clients, whatever that is for each of us and what that looks like can be different. But I think at the end of the day, if you get to be more in your superpower, your zone of genius, it's only going to be better for everybody.
Absolutely. Yes. I love that you tied it back to that. That's exactly true. You get to leverage what you're putting out there and
Mhm.
really then delegate to that assistant so you get to be more in your zone. That's exactly it. And that's magnetic to money. That's
Yes.
magnetic to success.
Yeah, absolutely, and we can't forget we have that pencil or pen in our hand, so we get to write the story of what that can do
Yeah.
within our organization. So absolutely love that. So now I want to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. A little bit more word of wisdom or piece of advice. I like to say it might be something you would give as advice to your favorite client, or if you hopped into a time machine, what might you tell Dr. Amanda?
Oh, that's hard to say only one. And,
Speaking
it's,
for.
yeah, I'd say remember that everything in your outer world is a reflection of your world. And this is the
Mhm.
key takeaway for everyone here. And it will help you radically change your life. If you can really believe it and get out of your victim mindedness and stop blaming other people, you have the power to create anything you choose. And it's so fun when you realize that because you go, whoa, I've been getting this result because of a story I've been telling myself that is usually a victim based story. I've been blaming other people for what is happening. Instead, I could just decide to optimize myself and then I could literally become, I tell entrepreneurs they can become ATM machines. Like you're your own ATM machine. It's just plugging in the right stuff. And so you plug in the right pin code, which is your thoughts and planting positivity and planting, clarity and direction and purpose and vision and your why into that ATM machine. You can pump out limitless amounts of money and have limitless impact. And so just remember you're the creator of your reality. And if you can do that and really start to play in the field of understanding the universal laws and using them to your benefit, you can win at the game of life and at the game of business and in financial world. And all of it. It's like, it's the blueprint for knowing how to feel good every day.
Nice. I love that. And I definitely love analogies and metaphors. So I'll never go buy another ATM machine. I'll look at it completely different from here going on. But I love just the practicality again of that because I think so many times we forget that. But if you're starting to look at what's happening in the world, I think the quote is in order to change the world, you have to change yourself. And that kind of speaks directly to what you're saying when you're saying, oh, why is this happening? This doesn't go my way, or I wanted to go this way. If we start to look at how we're programming ourselves, what we're telling ourselves, just all those different aspects as we've been talking about, then you start to see that maybe not instantly, but if you do it over a period of time, you have that bamboo growth as we talked about.
Yeah, you got it. That's absolutely it right there. And like, I want to add, be
Go for it.
patient, right? Most people are not patient enough. And the wild thing is that the more patient you become, the faster it will happen. And so you don't
Mm,
even need to be patient anymore, which is funny. But the impatience is what causes you to push it away and make it take longer. And so when we're impatient about our bamboo growth, we make it take longer. So instead, just be patient, be strategic, have fun, and it'll attract you more quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. If we ever were, especially as kids, but we do this as adults as well too. A lot of times we're waiting for Santa to come down the chimney and all that stuff. We're waiting, waiting, waiting. When is he gonna come? A lot of times when we go to sleep and we have that patience, we have that time away. That's when he comes, and that's when we start to get the presents and all the opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. So it's a great visual.
Yes, absolutely. So now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. We're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So, Dr. Amanda, what does being a CEO mean to you?
The powerful leader of yourself and your team. Like being a CEO to me is like the greatest opportunity in the world to design your life and your business as you choose, which is ultimate power. Like you get the ultimate power to have limitless income, limitless impact in any way you choose. Like to me, that is the ultimate gift.
Yeah, it's extremely, exciting and powerful because I think, obviously you can only control what you can control as we kind of been talking about. But I think when you decide to take that leap as you did, and as many of people are listening to this, you start to realize that you have quote unquote more control or more awareness, at least impact maybe might be a better word on those things. And I think when you have that and you take that forward, not only do you impact yourself, you get to also impact many other people, organizations, the world as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then that's when you really get to see this exponential experience.
Mm.
I think of growth as an upward spiral curve. So, you start to have that bamboo growth, the exponential growth. The more that you build momentum in the direction of knowing your power, the more power you get to attract and the more that you expand. And so it's just like this. And then it's a ripple effect. Like, how cool is it that
Yeah.
you get to have a ripple effect in the world where you create win-win-wins? Like right now, we're creating win-win-wins. You're winning, I'm winning, the audience is winning, then they're going out and it's ripple affecting, and then those people win. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times I'll look at it as, taking that rock and throwing it in the water. But if you take an entire boulder, as some of the things we're talking about, because they're so foundational and impactful, and you throw that in the border in the water, it starts to make that huge waves and ripple effects that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Yes. So
Awesome,
good.
awesome. Absolutely. And Dr. Amanda, truly appreciate that definition and perspective. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So, what I wanted to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find out about your book, podcast, all the awesome things that you're working on.
Absolutely. So I want to just remind everyone, check in with your feelings and that'll be your guide. So check in with how you feel. So a question you can just ask yourself every morning when you wake up, how do I feel right now? If it's anything less than a 10, what am I going to do to shift my energy in a direction of being higher vibe? So, whatever that is for you, do it. And then do that repeatedly throughout the day and notice that you'll start to have transformational shifts over time. So, I like to remind people of how easy it is. Just tap into your feelings and just remember to recognize them. And then finding me, yeah, Inner Power Entrepreneur Podcast, great place to hang out with me. And everything that I offer is on innerpowerdaily.com. So the name of my company, Inner Power Daily, and those are my handles. There's access to the 7-day free trial for the Law of Attraction for Entrepreneurs program, also group coaching, free rapid business growth calls. I've got a book with free chapters. I've got all kinds of awesome resources along the lines of everything we've talked about today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much again, Dr. Amanda. Of course, to make it even easier, we'll have the links and information in the show notes so that you can make sure to get all the things. We want you to have all the things to make that easy, for you. But thank you so much for all the awesome work that you do. I think we talked about that throwing that boulder in. And when I first started my business, I think we sometimes underestimate the power of our mindset and how that can propel you in a really great way or not so great way. But once you have that awareness of it, I think it really becomes like an additional superpower that we have in our arsenal. So thank you so much for making that aware, lighten that up for us. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you, Gresh.